Nothing wears away at a marriage like stress. And never, at least in my lifetime, has the world been under so much stress, the entire world, as we are right now because of the COVID crisis. And don't you know that is having a toll, a real strain on relationships in general, but especially on our husband and wife relationships. In this episode, I want to talk about what you can do while you're in lockdown with your lover to actually smooth over and improve your relationship in a lot of ways, just by understanding a little better where he is coming from. I know it's going to be helpful. Enjoy.
Bags are packed, are you ready to go? This time tomorrow we'll be on the road, riding with you in the sunnier days. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Welcome to the WifeSavers Podcast, where multi-award-winning author and global marriage educator Ramona Zabriskie provides answers to your real wife questions. Our goal is to help you appreciate your womanhood, prioritize your personal development, and craft a powerful partnership with the man in your life. Hi, I'm Hannah Allen, and I'm proud to introduce my parents, Ramona and Dale Zabriskie. And yes, this is how they talk all the time. Let's listen.
Taking the good with the ups and downs.
Hi, it's Dale Zabriskie, continuing to follow the governmental mandate of sheltering in place. And I have chosen to shelter in this place with this woman, Ramona Zabriskie.
Yeah, can we think of it romantically?
Well, we should. I think you make the, lemon into lemonade thing. And there's probably a lot of people out there that are sheltering in places that they, with people they don't necessarily want to shelter with. So I'm happy.
But you know what? God gave us a family, and that's our sample of humanity that we have to deal with. And that we have to experiment with and to learn from.
Grow from.
And grow mature with. That's right. And that is the big test of life, isn't it? Relationships. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Because under these worldwide government mandates, as you put it, we are straining our families. We're straining our relationships to the max in a lot of cases. How do I know this? Because I'm getting a lot of letters from a lot of women. And let me share just 2 or 3 of them with you. Here's one. How do I help my husband right now? He seems full of anxiety with the COVID crisis.
Well, get in line, first of all. It's everybody's problem, right?
And here's the next.
But she's desirous to help that process.
Exactly. Here's another one. What's your best advice for emotional and mental health right now, especially trying to support stressed husband? ... Dun, dun, dun. But here's a much more detailed one. All right. And I think we can base our discussion on this particular letter writer.
Okay.
Throw me a WifeSavers, she says. We are all healthy, which is good, at least, but I am scared for my husband. I am scared about us in this time and whether what is happening to him is something we can recover from.
Wow.
We had this fight the night before last night that I swear I couldn't avoid. I tried. It seems the more life feels out of control for him. Now, I really want you to listen to this, honey, because I want you to tell me how common or true this might be.
Well, it's
for
ringing
men.
very true right now so far.
She says, it seems the more life feels out of control for him, the more he tries to control me and the children.
Yeah, you got to have something to control.
And it gets to me. He turns away from or against most of my bids for attention. See, she's a wife-saver. She knows about turning towards. Spends most of his waking hours in front of some kind of screen and barely leaves the house. Mostly, though, He is trying to be steady and kind and affectionate. He still cuddles with me at night before we sleep. He seems incredibly calm about his lack of success finding a job so far. So he's unemployed.
He's out of work. Oh, yeah. Wow.
And often mentions signs that things may improve. I just worry about what he is feeling inside as he tried to be strong for others. And I worry that the balance of positive to negative in our interactions is tipping in the wrong direction. I think he has a low sense of his own self-worth right now, and that he's been projecting that on me. I know he is terrified. He is terrified about the economy and whether he will find a job after this. Every time I express my own fears or worries, he focuses on reassuring me, but he is shoving down all his own fear and then exploding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am just scared sick of the darkness in his head right now, she says. I don't know how to reach him where he is. I don't even know, considering all the times he's hurt me lately, where to find the strength to be whatever he needs me to be to help him find his way back from this. I don't know who else I can talk to about this. I'm so scared right now. I just feel so alone. I don't know what to do other than to just keep going and hope things get better. Yet I know when the damage to our relationship becomes so severe that, I don't know when the damage to our relationship becomes so severe that we cannot recover from it. Mm-hmm. I know I'm probably one of many women suffering right now. But if you can think of anything that would help, I can use any help I can get.
Wow, this is, to me, this really rings. I can totally relate. I can put myself in the shoes of her husband.
All right.
Just by listening to that.
I want you to do that after we talk about her shoes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about why she wrote this letter.
And my point being that I don't know that this is a super uncommon situation.
Well, that's why we're using it as a subject
I
for our
think
she knows it. She said, I know I'm probably one of many women suffering right now.
Yeah. No, I can relate totally.
If a family isn't experiencing this yet, there's a really good chance they will in the weeks and the months to come.
Yeah, because right now where we're standing and sitting, the governmental mandate is another month from this point.
Wow.
So.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Right. And day after day or hour after hour.
Week, month. Yeah.
I'm very concerned about it. That's why I'm doing 2 podcasts in 1 week about it. That's why I'm speaking at several conferences this week about it. That's why I'm just doing everything I can think of for my own students, my own WifeSavers, including expanding the program while lowering the cost right now. I'm doing everything I can think of because I'm very worried about marriages fraying under this kind of pressure.
Totally, yeah.
So I want to speak up for her a little bit and what she is feeling. Obviously, you can hear it all throughout her letter here, that she's feeling pushed away from him.
Right.
She's not
isolated.
She says she's kind of getting mixed messages because she says he'll cuddle with her
That's
at night.
right.
But at the same time, he's not paying attention to what she calls bids for attention from him. He's spending all his time in front of a screen, kind of screen.
And that's a big part of what I see. I mean, that makes total sense to me from a man's perspective.
Okay, you keep that in mind. I really want to hear what you're going to have to say about that. And she's looking for reassurance of her fears and so forth. And he's trying. It sounds like he is trying a little bit to be strong for others.
Yeah, it's not consistent.
She's also feeling, she's trying to protect the relationship, but she's feeling rejected. Like she wants to help him feel better, but when she tries, she's getting...
Yeah, well, it works one time and then it doesn't work another time.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Probably.
She's feeling shut out when he acts suspiciously calm.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it, whatever.
Yeah, well, he says, he seems incredibly calm about not having a job yet, or, but she believes, she can sense, because women are good at this, that he deep down is terrified.
That's correct.
But he's acting super in control.
Because he's the guy. That's right.
But that makes her feel shut out, that he's not sharing with her. She was dying to know what he's really thinking and feeling. And she's feeling persecuted when he's acting out, when he's angry. Like, why is he taking this out on me? She says that. He's shoving down all his fear and then exploding at her and the children. And she's thinking, why am I the cause of all our problems, And then I suspect there are times when she does get emotional.
Fires back.
He's probably telling her, what are you so hysterical about? And all that kind of stuff. And now we've just got a drama, and sometimes a bitter drama. Like she started out by saying there was this big fight last night, and I really tried to avoid it, and believes that the more he feels out of control, the more he's trying to control her and the children. That's how it feels to her.
Yeah.
So you can see why she wrote to us and why she needs help. So that's what she's feeling. Now, everyone's sitting on pins and needles to hear from you about what he's feeling, why it's hitting him so hard, or is it?
Well,
is he really as calm as he seems?
Well, this is the challenge, and you've taught, a lot in the past about the emotional delay that men have, right, to crises or situations. Right. And,
we are going to talk about that. I do want to get into that. Because
I see that, and what I see in her description is that happening over and over and over again. It's not a one-time thing. It's going to come out.
Are you saying that at times a man would feel pretty calm and in control, honestly,
yes.
But then there's something bubbling up,
yep.
or what?
Absolutely.
That's true of you?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes I feel totally in control and engaged and, okay, let's solve this problem and I'll help with the kids and everything. But these fears we talk about, right, that needing to be needed and not feeling neglected and the aspect of independence that a guy gets.
And that he has to succeed. Most of all, he hates the
losing,
idea of,
right.
Right.
And failing. Most of that's happening for a lot of guys in a job somewhere, corporate, where they have control, right?
Okay.
So there's control. The coping mechanisms is what she's describing. The screen time, and whatever that is, right. Staring at a television.
Kind of withdrawing into himself.
Exactly. But
he can control what's happening in a
You can control
game.
The game, right. You have success there and you feel good about the accomplishments. But when, she talks about not we're being worried about getting a job or whatever.
Yeah, right.
He's scared to friggin' death about getting a job, okay?
I think I know why, but
Yeah.
You tell me from your point of view, why is that so frightening?
Well,
other than, having food on the table.
Yeah. Well, it is a big responsibility, and it is an external manifestation of his worth. Somebody needs me, somebody cares about me. But it's very normal to put on this, as you've taught in the past, masks.
The male mask. And
the
I
male
do want
mask,
to really detail that.
To say, no, it's in control. I got it. Don't worry about it. I got it right here. And I don't need anybody's help to take care of this, and I don't want your help right now. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it in my own time, and I'm not quite ready. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still processing. And while I do that, I'm playing this game, or I'm watching this show, or I'm doing something else.
Is it irritating for you to feel like you're... for me as a wife, for instance, to poke and prod around when you're still trying to figure out the problem, you will?
It can be. I guess it depends on the guy, because it sounds like her guy isn't the sit down like our son would be, right? Our son in this situation, one of the sons would sit down and, okay, everybody, here's what I'm thinking, and what do you feel, and everything. He was that way in kindergarten.
Right.
But
much
for me,
more communicative.
Yeah, and for me, and I think it sounds like for his guy, her guy, is I got it. I'll figure it out. And when I figure it out, I'll come and talk to you about it. And we've done that. I've done that with you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it frustrates you.
It drives me nuts.
That's right. But that's kind of the process that I think a lot of guys have to go through. But also at this time, and I told you this the other day, that, if I lost my job in the middle of this thing, it would be devastating, because where would I go? Nobody's hiring.
You're reminding me of a quote. Yes. Oh, that's scarier than ever then, right?
I mean, some are, but still.
Miles Monroe, who wrote The Power and Purpose of Men, says, when a man loses his job, it's as if life has fallen apart.
Yeah.
Life.
Yeah, right.
Has fallen apart. Some men actually end up losing their minds after they lose their jobs. Why do they have such an extreme reaction? It's because it's not just a job to them. It's their means of providing, but it's one of their purposes for being has been taken away from them.
Absolutely. And I got that from my dad. And my dad was all about work. If you don't feel good, go work. You got a problem to figure out, go work. His solution for everything that he carried around his pocket was working.
There's a reason for that I don't know if we've ever discussed, that I'd like to talk a little bit about today. Now, you talked about male masking. So thank you for helping us understand a little bit about why it's hitting him so hard. I want to now talk about how he's dealing with the hit, the emotion involved, the terror that she's seeing, the frustration and not being able to control things.
And as you get into this, I want to keep one thing in mind, is that the way she described it, and I can totally relate to that, it's easy in this situation to look at the guy and go, you don't have any emotion. You seem just totally emotionless. Not the case.
Okay.
It's there.
All right.
But it's not being expressed the way that we would expect it to be, right?
That's what I want to really clarify.
If I don't have a job, I should be going, oh, no, I got to have a job. I got to look for a job. That's not the way it's being processed.
Right, and it really frustrates women who feel like they're being shut out or even deceived in some sense because he's not fully open with his emotion, not understanding how differently he deals with emotion. So I think that will help her a lot if we can clarify this. So you mentioned male masking a few minutes ago. Male masking is a biological reality.
Yeah.
All right, it's
all
a
the time.
Biological reality. I got to read this to you.
I think I wore 3 or 4 yesterday. Put
It's
them
a
back in the drawer.
strategy.
Pulled them out when I needed.
I hope you sanitized them before you put them on.
Absolutely. I wear a mask. They all have masks. So the masks have masks. N95 masks.
Male masking, biological reality, strategy of human adaptation. All right. Now, this is from Michael Gurian, who is one of the experts on
premier.
Yes, on how men think. In fact, he wrote a book called What Could He Be Thinking? But it's natural for women to try to reduce the male masking, if you will, in favor of more direct, if you will, expression
Specific.
Of feelings.
Yeah.
But what she's got to understand is that male masking is an important and protective, if you will, part of male life. And it's really important to respect that.
Because we think, and that's a really good point, because I think we think about people putting masks on to protect, for whatever, and it has this negative connotation, right?
Right.
You're not being truthful, you're hiding, you're blah, blah, blah. But you make a point that
it's actually
a process.
Yes, it's part of the process.
And to let it happen and and techniques to help them take them off earlier.
Yes, exactly.
Not spend so much time with a mask on.
Exactly.
Which we all want to do.
If he feels recrimination from her for doing something that just feels like I have to do it this way. If that I have to have some separateness, if you will. And the mask is allowing me to do that in order to deal with the issue. I just feel it in my gut. This is my bones, my cells. This is how I deal with these emotions. If she'll let him do that, if she'll be a little more understanding and allowing, there won't be so much conflict, which can be dangerous, especially in our contained quarters right now. All right. So trying to get some kind of dialogue going with him about his fears or his needs, or prodding him, like I said earlier, to open up just so she can help him, or just so she can, validate that she's right about what he's really feeling, is not the best. It's not the optimal approach with a man.
And that's going to be hard for her, because she needs that.
That's instinctive to her, right? Right. But she's not his psychotherapist. So she's got to keep in mind, it's not, if he feels like he's being pressured, to discuss his emotions, I call that killing him softly in WifeSavers.
Roberta Flack.
Yes. If deep down, as much as he's afraid of losing his job, he's afraid of being overwhelmed by her demands to expose his emotions.
So it's really, really hard for, in this case, a woman and working with her husband, to give him the time and space to work through that.
And to realize that when he's putting on the let's fight mask, or what are you being hysterical about mask, or that kind, anything like that, that's what's really going on. And he really is just asking for a little space. Now, we want to help him. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. But first, I just want to make sure she understands how he deals with emotions. So here's other than the idea of male masks. Number one, to men, emotions are often design problems to be solved rather than feelings to be enjoyed.
That's so true.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Explain.
Oh, I think that's what I was saying before, is that I have to process and figure this out. This is, you give me a problem, or you say, everything from this light bulb's out to, we got to build a deck out in the back, or whatever the complexity level is.
I have this intense emotion right in that same category. I have a problem to solve.
You have a problem to solve. Right. Exactly.
So interesting.
And so I'm going to come in and think and go, okay, now how would I do that? I have to get the ladder. In order to get the ladder, I'm going to have to pull the car out and then pull these shelves over. And I mean, literally.
But you're treating an emotion with the same kind of
Well, it's working through
approach.
The motion. It's like, I'm feeling this way. It's all about not feeling this way. It's all about, how do I get rid of this and get back to my normal?
Okay, I got to share this. Gurian, the expert, Gray is another one. They talk about that how men can be actually neurally stressed. That's a biological brain reaction.
Your brain is stressed, basically.
By the same emotions that give women pleasure. It's the intensity, and the stress skyrockets in the face of really intense emotions associated with negativity. So it is fearful, paralyzing to a man, the thought of being overwhelmed or flooded by intensely negative emotion. I've got to quote you. I got to quote this. It's Korean.
Yeah.
Now, so people believe me about this. With a smaller hippocampus than women, men tend to store less emotional and sensory experience in their brains. Fewer active neural pathways to the hippocampus contribute to the male brain's tendency to rely less on emotion storage strategy than women do, with more emphasis on, I don't know how to say this word. Can you see that?
Yeah. Amygdalic. The amygdala. It's all about the amygdala.
Thank you. What he said. And brainstem responses to emotions. Men tend not to store feelings for gradual expression.
Like
women do.
Right.
Oh, gradual. They come out little by
gradual.
little.
Yeah, okay.
But to activate emotions toward quick release. Less of the male brain is devoted to the processing of feelings than in the female. So he will tend to store less feeling, memory, finding the releasing of feelings more functional, as in, if I can get these feelings out of the way quickly, right, his brain is saying, I can get back to what I'm working on.
Absolutely.
And what he's working on is usually a task or a job.
That's right. And I want to say my amygdala and hippocampus are larger than normal. And I've developed those over the years through exercising.
There's never going to be as big as mine.
Yeah. Well, we'll see about that. There's a challenge to put through.
So positioning the emotion as a problem stresses out women. That stresses me out, thinking thinking of an emotion as a problem.
But you just want to cry about it, and you'll feel better.
While positioning the emotion as a problem for males is an abstraction that decreases stress. It's part of the coping mechanism.
It is. That's why I said earlier, I've got it out here, so I'm going to put it all in little boxes. And, I've got a little bit of over here, and some of it I'll get to later, maybe over there. And I know how to deal with it when
in a sort of orderly way.
Exactly, when I strategize.
Okay, all right. So beyond the hippocampus and the
amygdala lies I'm ready.
There's also hormones involved.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so testosterone and vasopressin in males tend toward a problem-solving response. Those are the dominance and aggression chemicals, right? And problem-solving, what is that? It's a dominant strategy. And it's also an aggressive way of ending a problematic situation. So here we got both the male brain and the male biochemicals moving this guy not towards extending the feeling, exploring the feeling, relishing with the feeling,
becoming one with the feeling,
digging down with the feeling, but rather to transform the emotion into an idea that can be managed safely.
I totally agree. I do not want to be BFF with my feelings. That's right. It has to be, it's all about a process.
So women, here's number 2. Number 1 was, to men, emotions are often design problems to be solved, right? So here's number 2. Women like to express feelings. Men like to release feelings.
Yeah, we're all, yes. We love that feeling release. It's important.
Mary Jo Rapini, who's a psychotherapist, says that women verbalize emotion. Surprise!
I'm on the floor with that one. Let me get back up.
While men's emotional language is physical.
Action.
That is, a man needs to physically release the emotion that a woman would express in words. And I personally talked with and interviewed Reuben Gurr,
I remember
PhD, Director of Brain Behavior Laboratory and the Center for Neuroimaging in Psychiatry at the University of Pennsylvania. Okay, just
saying.
Just saying. And he explained to me that his research found that men are indeed wired to act during times of high emotion. And I could read you his very complicated response that's even more complicated than the last one I read. But what it boils down to is that while you as a woman are wired to talk about your feelings, he is programmed by Mother Nature to do something about them. And it's very intense during intense emotion. And that's often why men will shut down or withdraw rather than act in a way because he wants to act on it. And he's afraid that if he gives in to that impulse, he could actually do something harmful or hurtful to his family. So he'll pull back totally because he's afraid of what he really feels like he has to do. Isn't that interesting? Have you ever experienced that?
Yes. I think that for in negative emotion, it's easier for people to slam doors and to, hit this and to express in that way. Yeah, I've felt that way. I've never had an anger management problem, but
right. Thank goodness.
I can see how that's happening. But I think the goal here is for, a man and a wife to figure out how do we dance together? How do we dance together? How do I help him release?
Yes.
Appropriately.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And sometimes that may be, a physical intimacy time to be together.
For some couples.
But it's also, I can see how hard it is for the woman to want to be close to a guy who's withdrawn.
Right.
But may need that to
She's
help
like, but
the
it'll
process.
be good for you and it'll be good for our relationship if you'd open up. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to break now for just a minute so I can invite you to my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. In my work with women in over 70 countries, I found that most of us, when it comes to our husbands and sons, think like Carol in Kenya.
I was expecting him to think like me, behave like me.
Or Dana in Idaho.
Shouldn't we just be the same? And shouldn't we just agree?
Or Anne in Oregon.
I grew up in a culture where there was a lot of eye rolling and sighing about guys.
And that's too bad, because when we act or react based on false expectations, we end up feeling like Catherine or Farinaz.
I didn't feel I could relate to him because I didn't understand him.
Thought maybe he had to do something with me, and I was taking it personally.
Or getting riled up like Carol.
Made me mad. It's crazy. It was frustrating, you know?
And acting like Anne.
I used to think he should know what I wanted without me having to ask.
Which just erodes our relationships and blows up our dreams. So that's why I created Understanding Your Husband and Sons, a super fun, eye-popping deep dive into his brain, body, and emotional makeup. Women have been coming from all over the world and coming away from our time together with an exhilarating sense of hope and power, because now women like Amber, Ann, Dana, and Allison understand
How to communicate my needs. How to be clear about it. How not to be run around, how not to manipulate.
The way I communicate with him isn't any more aggressive or threatening to him.
I can see why he's reacting or why he's responding that way.
That's helped to avoid a lot of the hurt feelings that I used to have.
So if, like Jeannie, you're thinking,
okay, I need to reboot how I think about marriage and men and how they're loved.
Please join me at this free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. I'll teach you things you have never heard before and that you won't hear anywhere else. Science and strategies that will knock your socks off and make all the difference in your relationships.
And it just changes everything about how I see him.
There's this huge potential that I was not really tapping into because I didn't fully understand it.
I think the biggest piece is this understanding and appreciation.
We're both so much happier now.
And in how you see yourself.
My confidence as a woman has skyrocketed.
We've made it so easy. Just go to wifesavers.org/masterclass and choose a day and time. I'll meet you there and even answer your questions live. Because like Carol in Kenya or Cindy in Argentina, you'll want to be able to say,
oh, we are wired differently. And that's the beauty of life.
And it set me free. It allowed me to say, okay, I understand now. And I loved him more than ever.
wifesavers.org/masterclass.
Oh, I recommend it to everyone I meet.
I call it his sticky lid. And what I'm talking about is one of those jelly jars that gets used and sits in the fridge too long and the rim doesn't get cleaned. And then you go to try and open that jar and it's just sticky, sticky, sticky. And if you have weak little fingers like mine, it's just impossible. So how are we going to open his sticky lid? But before I get into that, I just want to make it clear that the bottom line is women trust feelings more than men.
Trust them.
Yes.
Yeah. They can become more reality, would you say? Is that what you're saying?
No.
So when you say women trust feelings.
She's like, I have a feeling about this. And she really wants to move and act on it, while he is looking at a feeling like, I need to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. This is a negative. This is a problem to be solved.
Yeah.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to make it clear, though, that Dr. Gurr made it clear that men are designed basically to stay. Let me underline the word design. They're designed to stay level-headed and focused, processing logically and rationally rather than emotionally. They're wired to arrive at a solution from a take action kind of paradigm.
In a crisis.
And this is what's driving our letter writers, all of them, crazy as women, but is in fact a gift. I want them to think of it as a gift, the way their guy's wired. Because in a crisis situation, do you want an emotional man? Really? Or do you want one who's thinking, he's focused, he's trying really hard to stay level-headed, he's being a little more logical than emotional, and he's going to take action not be all waffly iffy. If you're in a real crisis, that's what you need.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
And those responses.
You don't want him sniveling in the corner.
No. Or overreacting.
Right?
Or reacting without all the information that you need in order to make a decision.
That's true.
It is very important. You talk about responding versus reacting.
Yes.
I think that's a powerful thing to think about, that you and guys are like in this situation generally wired to respond after we get the information. Now, if your guy is sitting in the couch with his T-shirt on and a bag of Cheetos, saying that he's going to respond, I'll be responding here in an hour or so.
Like, how soon are you going to release this?
There's a line there you don't want to cross. But when the T-shirt becomes too orange from the Cheetos,
this is a good moment to put in our little disclaimer that we're not trying to stereotype men and women. I've been working for too long in this field and with too many people to do that. This is often flipped, where everything we're describing about men and women are totally flipped. And we have a touchy-feely kind of guy, and we have a woman who's very reticent to open up for all the same reasons we just talked about. So we're talking about common tendencies in men and women. Just that. We are all capable of the whole spectrum of human emotion and activity and reaction and response, like you say. But we're just talking generally speaking. And we're specifically
to our letter
trying
writer.
to answer our letter writer.
Right.
That's right. Okay. So now let's talk about that sticky lid.
Get that sticky lid. I want some of that
jam jar off. All right. These are things that I teach my wife savers, and they're very proven. Ready? First one. Here's our first strategy for opening a sticky lid. If you really want to know what's going on in his head and heart, and you feel like we've got to get to the bottom of this, is to not jump to tell me what you're feeling. All right. But to first share or exchange information.
Just get talking.
Poor women. We just don't. I
don't have time for this. I got too many things going on.
We want to go straight to the relationship, straight to the emotion, but because she's that kind of creature. But he gravitates, as we said, more to analytical thinking and speaking. So that means he's going to be more comfortable with information-based conversation. So if you want to get a little closer to him, start out with just plain old information, just exchanging of fact. What do you think about what's going on in the world? Did you read that article? How, do you agree with me about this? We love it. We actually have come to really enjoy, just like friends do. Let's just talk about stuff.
Well, I think that, very much so. The point you're making is you can't dive into how are you feeling? And because of this delayed, and I've lived this delayed response, this delayed emotional response, the need to analyze and be more specific and how am I going to attack this problem? And so the conversation, if you're clever in the conversation, you can start with generic information that could lead to the opportunity to
now that's really good.
Talk about the right thing, concerning things.
So just enjoy the exchange of casual fact and information about things that have nothing to do necessarily with the crisis or your concerns for him or the relationship.
But I have to say, initially that may be hard because it's like, well, what do you think of that article? You say, and I go, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
You get monosyllabic responses. Yeah, don't be discouraged.
You know what I found works with, I have a son we have the very open, emotionally talkative son, and we have another one who plays it really close to the hip. And the only way, I can get him to open up is to be willing to just talk to him about his work or
what he wants to talk about.
Whatever he wants to talk about and whatever he wants to teach me about. So I'll say, I don't understand this. And how does that work? And then he'll get going. And he'll start talking. And then maybe 2 hours later, I can get, so how do you feel about your job? I can work that in. And I'm not kidding. It takes a long time.
I think that's true for a lot of guys who are very proud about something that they can teach. And give an opportunity to do
So if you're getting that monosyllabic response, that's one approach, is to ask him to explain something to you that you'd really like to understand more. But you have to be very careful and judicious as you nudge him towards this idea of feeling, no loaded questions. You've just got to be, he might be a little reticent because in the past he's felt your judgment. I feel your judgment, So if you feel like that may be true, here's the thing to do. As he's talking, as he's explaining, sharing fact, and as he gets closer and closer, maybe he starts opening up a little bit about his feelings. You can't be judgmental, right? You have to.
They're his feelings, so you shouldn't feel that way.
You're going to shut him down,
right.
Shut the garage door. Bam. It's got to be more this. Interesting. That is the magic word. It's amazing what that one word can do. Interesting. It's just enough of the right and respectful kind of engagement without giving away one syllable of judgment, as long as you don't say it sarcastically.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's interesting.
Interesting. All right. So that's sort of the gateway to opening the sticky lid, is just exchanging information. Just have fun talking about stuff. All right. Now, the rest of the strategies I'm going to give you have to do with the fact that he's so physical. We talked about him releasing emotion physically. He's a physical creature. Just look at him. All right. So here's the next strategy. Communicate shoulder to shoulder rather than face to face.
Yeah, you don't want to come across being confrontational or that you're requiring something. Look at me, eyes on me.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Respond now.
And isn't it true that as a man that you feel like you're bonding with me even when I'm just in the same room? We don't have to be talking. In my mind, we have to be talking to be bonding. But in the male mind, generally speaking, he can bond just by, I'm just watching you do something.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I'm just sitting next to you.
Last night we were in the kitchen together, and it was a wonderful time, and that we made a great dinner. We loved our dinner, but that process of creating that dinner wasn't this
a lot of verbal
formal,
exchange.
Right.
Yeah.
It was this give and take, and
yeah. Just being shoulder to shoulder is how we call it. All right. So this works really good with your teenage boys and little boys even too. That idea of just being in the same room with them and sitting shoulder to shoulder rather than across the table when you want to really converse. Interesting.
There it is.
Okay. Next strategy. Converse with him while you're actually moving. While you're being physically active, when you're working on a project or you go for a walk. Or I'll never forget how our daughter Hannah talked about how she and her husband love to hike, and they'll go on a 2-hour hike. And the first hour they're hiking one direction, and there's not a lot said, and what is pretty informational or observational.
Look at that, or that's pretty.
And then they turn around, they come down the mountain, and bam! All of a sudden, he's talking about his work and how he feels about his new boss and all this stuff just pouring out of him because she invested that hour in the being physical with him. I think it's very funny. I'll never forget the time you and this same son-in-law were working out front in setting up a garden area for me, and you were putting down new dirt, and there was just tons of physicality in it, and you guys worked at that for hours. And in the first couple hours you were just totally focused on the task at hand. But I came out later in the afternoon, and you were he was asking for your advice on things, and you were being brilliant that way, and you were having this really, what I would consider as a woman, meaningful conversation because you'd been working shoulder to shoulder and being physically active together for a significant period of time.
So all that amygdala and hippocampus had to get flushed out through all that activity.
Fired up.
I don't know either. I just had to say amygdala and
So
hippocampus
cool.
one more
Yeah,
time.
so, if I feel like I really need to talk to one of my sons, I'll say, come clean the garage with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, so that's
And
another
you said
strategy.
a little while ago, this works really well with teenage boys who
Yes.
need super activity.
Yeah, more
right?
than ever.
Just shooting hoops or something.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You want to really get into what's going on in their head. You better be ready for a game
Yeah,
of something physical with them. All right. So along those same lines, I want to talk about how important masculine zest is. This is a terminology I coined, and you can like it or not, but I like it because to me it totally captures what women love in men. Masculine zest. When they take a little pride and confidence, if you will, in their own masculinity, not in a way that demeans women, but is actually attractive
not
to
overbearing
women,
or
right?
whatever.
And so if you're talking about being physical, getting out on a walk or cleaning the garage or whatever together, the best kind of physicality is the fun stuff. Doing recreation. He loves having you
with a little risk involved
as
is
a
even better.
recreational partner, right? Well, I've never been one who wanted to do the skydiving. You're the one who wants to do that, but I'll root for you from the ground. I'm still participating. All right. So, we all need the release, especially in these super
the stressful
scary
times. Yeah.
We need the release that laughter and fun, recreation can bring. And you might need to get a little creative about it these days, but we can still go outside and
You're encouraged to do that.
Yes, and we encourage him to do that. And if we can play with him, we're going to get him to open that sticky lid a little bit more. So guys, generally speaking, have to have play. And if your guy's getting really down and out and depressed and he's trying to control you and the children, like our letter writer calls, I mean, that's what she described it as. My first thing in that moment, if I were standing there with her, I'd be whispering in her ears, like, send him outside to chop some wood. Seriously.
But
or
that's,
get him to take the kids out in the back for a game of soccer.
But that's also can be a challenge, because I know when I've been in a funk like that you're saying, go for a walk. I'm saying, I don't want to go for a walk. Leave me alone. That's potentially and probably going to be the response. And
Not always.
But it's a matter of it's a sticky lid, right?
Right.
And be consistent,
gently,
and
persistent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So, what the whole point I want to make about play and adventure actually is that it's a time out from his intense personal fears and those emotions that he's trying to problem solve.
It's a contrast.
Distraction.
It's a contrast.
Right. And then adventure, the little risky thing you were talking about, what that does for him is that kind of daring exploit, challenges and confirms his masculinity. And that feels good to a guy, right? So let's just go through everything that we've kind of talked about to open his sticky lid. We didn't talk about this. I think it's a given. You got to cut the contempt and the criticism. Why is he going to want to open up to you and tell you what he's feeling if he feels like you're being the crazy lady, which is another wife-saver term.
Yeah, or attacking.
Cut the contempt and criticism. Treat him with first respect. That's another wife-saver's term, which means being loyal to him and speaking to him in a straightforward way, being trustworthy, like what he shares with you.
And
you're not going to give away to anybody else.
Straightforward is not, let me tell you how it's going to be, right? Straightforward is clear, concise, friendly.
Yes. Right.
Not with any malice or intent.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Encourage and enjoy informational conversation, which we established. Then you can inquire about his feelings on the subject, but with no pressure, no judgment, no agenda, just, what's the word? Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. No fixes.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Because if you're trying to open the sticky lid so more jelly comes out, that's not going to go very far if right out of the chute, he's feeling like you're trying to fix him or judge him. All right. We didn't talk about this, but we have in other podcast episodes, view and treat as strong feelings with, an emotion coaching sort of approach, more like help me understand. We've talked a lot about that in other podcast episodes. Help me understand. Be satisfied with how much he shares.
Well, those two go hand in hand because, if he does come back with emotion or anger or frustration, it's so easy for us as humans to counter that with the same, to fight back, basically.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is this emotion coaching, this idea of, okay, help me understand why you say that or why you're feeling that way.
Yes.
Right? It just opens up. And then if he gives you 5 words, that's a start.
That's a start. And you don't keep poking and prodding. More chance that he'll open up more later if you aren't.
Yeah. He'll come
You're
back.
Satisfied.
He'll come back and say, I was thinking about our talk earlier, and I would like to say that.
Or you can say, have you thought any more about that?
Yeah.
You can bring it up later.
You could, but I think you'll probably find him after processing it for 6 or 8 weeks, he'll come back.
Okay. Yeah. Great. And we've talked about all of these in some of our other episodes, like turning negative communication with your husband to the positive, seeing eye to eye, what to do when you don't. There's so many strategies in our other episodes. I'm hoping that during this sheltering in period for all of us, that we're binging on the WifeSavers Podcast.
There you go.
That's what you really need to do. And before I move on to the next aspect that I want to talk about, I want to do a little word from our sponsor.
Okay. Now we'll be right back.
We don't have a sponsor
after these
for
messages.
The podcast
That's
episode.
Right.
We are footing the bill here all by ourselves, and I'm not asking for a Kickstarter or anything like that, listener. But I do want to take a minute to put in a plug, if you will, for my WifeSavers course and community. There is nothing like it on the planet. It is the most comprehensive approach to a relationship smarts education that you're going to get or find anywhere else.
And what would a woman expect to find? What's the experience like for the WifeSavers?
Well, you know what? I should have a million testimonials here right in front of me that I could read to you, because that's what we have. We have just hundreds and hundreds of happy women who are happy because they are learning, they are progressing, and they're seeing the fruits of it in their relationships, particularly their marriages, right? Mm-hmm. But WifeSavers is a personal development program as well as a relationship education.
But they spend time with you.
Yes, they spend time with me. I become their personal mentor, if you will.
Right.
So we have lots of material presented in a very organized, systematic way. So we're building line upon line our understanding and our skill sets. And it just covers the gamut, right? So it's a really fun way that it's laid out, and a fun way to approach things through the lessons. And
these are video lessons.
And the rewards that you get.
Yeah, and you've got badges and rewards. Yes. And it's like 30 minutes of your time to go through some time with you.
A lesson. Right.
And learn a principle and then build upon that. And then there are all sorts of topics and things that you can go through, and you can find, I want to learn more about this or that.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I say that it's on your phone, it's on your computer, however you want to consume it.
Right. You can just listen. In fact, I have students who do it with their best friend, and they go walking every day. Now, maybe you can't do this right now, but they go walking and they listen to another lesson, that kind of approach. And then the really amazing, cool thing about it isn't just self-study, because we have a community. So it's the WifeSavers course and community. Mm-hmm. And in the community, we have our own private Facebook page. You have to be a student to get in there. And we have kitchen table conversations where the community comes together and just talks with my team
on a video conferencing, Zoom meeting.
Video conferencing. It's really hot right now, right?
Yeah.
And also we have our regular monthly Q&As with me called Live Labs or Conversations with Ramona. Everybody loves those. I'm amazed at how much they live for those.
And like you said, that's a live event.
That's a live event.
Those are live events.
Right. And I do live events in the Facebook group as well and that kind of thing. Plus, I do one-on-one personal mentoring with my students who want to seek that out. And that has proven extremely valuable. And so we just have this wonderful group of women who I have to say come from all over the world. And that is the coolest thing ever for women from the United States to be interacting with women from Africa or India or Europe. And it's all mixed up in there from every stage of life, every marital experience. So we have women who've been married literally 50 years who are still learning how to be the kind of woman and wife they really, really want to be. And then we have women who've been married less than 5 years and some who've actually never been married. So we have who are trying to learn their stuff now, right? It's really exciting. It's a beautiful thing. I'm thrilled and proud of it. And because I believe in it so much and believe in how effective it is and believe how important it is right now, particularly, I'm so scared. I am for marriages and families that we're offering right now the opportunity to get in on the WifeSaver program at a price that we have never, ever offered before. I'm going to tell you straight up what it is. If you use the code podcast.
WS Podcast.
Oh, it's a WS Podcast.
WifeSavers abbreviated.
WSPODCAST.
There, you spell podcast.
You go to wifesavers.org/membership. And on that page, you'll be able to join. And then when you get to the checkout, you just use WS Podcast and you will get the program, the full program, the course and community, which we have been calling our premium program. If you'll get in on the premium program, which is normally $34.99 a month, and remember all the sports I just went through that you get live, that is only $19.99 right now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's like, uber cheap. I can't possibly afford to do it for that, for very long. But during this time when I'm so worried about everybody, and I'm like a mommy, I worry about everybody.
You are a mommy, yes.
Then, this is your opportunity. If you've been thinking about WifeSavers, jump in right now. Join us. I will love you to death. I will love you with all my heart personally. And you can ask any of my students.
That's what they love about you.
They feel my love. All right. So we've talked about how we're going to open his sticky lid, right? And then if he does open up, let's say he really does tell you that he is scared or worried, and you've done that recently with me, and I appreciate that, then first thing, I'm going to do this very briefly. This is a whole long skill set in and of itself, but we're going to seek understanding. First thing, always, help me understand. Ladies, that is the wisest thing in the world. Look for understanding first, seek to understand, then you listen non-defensively. Because some of what may come out, you might want to take personally.
Yeah. Make sure you really want to know.
If you're really trying to understand, if you're really trying to listen non-defensively, you do not take responsibility for his feelings.
Yeah.
All right. So instead of, stop crying, which is not, this is what guys say to us that we help say, we hate.
Yeah, don't stop crying, right?
Please stop crying. It would be so much better if he said, please help me understand what the tears are about. Please help me understand why you're crying.
Yeah.
So in the same way,
that's hard for guys.
Take responsibility for your partner's emotion.
Yeah, because the amygdala and hippocampus get way overloaded when you start crying.
Killing me softly with those tears. Stop it. I can't deal with it. All right, so next time I'm crying, what are you going to say? Help me understand
why
what
are you
all
crying?
the tears are about. Not an exasperation.
So I
Out
couldn't
of
resist.
love and concern.
Yeah,
I
that's
can
right.
feel your intent.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you hide your intent from me. I can totally tell if it's coming from love or exasperation.
There you
so,
go.
all right. So we're going to listen non-defensively. That means mostly keep quiet.
Let her go.
Pause a
Yeah.
little before you respond, right?
Yeah, right.
And put off your own agenda. All of that. All right. Then after we listen non-defensively, maybe we can actually get into some problem solving, to help him figure out what he needs to do or how he's going to feel better. Or what can he actually take action on? Because we know that's the whole
Well,
point.
the adage which my dad taught me was never react to the first information you get.
Oh, I have lived by
Right?
that since he told me that.
It's either it's going to be incomplete, or it's going to be wrong, or it's going to be biased.
That's part of listening non-defensively.
Yeah, and so your point of just sit back, let the conversation go, you'll learn a lot more, and you'll figure out how to respond appropriately much easier.
And you'll probably get waves of emotion because emotion usually is a mixture of emotions. And so, yeah. Interesting. That's a whole, interesting.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite words. That's
There's a
whole
lot
deep
there to
skill
go
set.
into.
So that's just a little taste of what we want you to do. Now, I have one more thing I want to share. And that is the importance of delighting your own heart, ladies. Delighting your heart is something we talk a lot about in WifeSavers, and it means taking responsibility for your own happiness, doing those tiny little things throughout the day that don't cost a lot of time or money, but bring you this little bump of feel-good and joy. And the reason we want to be proactive in doing this really intentionally right now, particularly during this stressful time, is that this is going to give you this emotional wherewithal, the generosity that's required to do the non-defensive listening, to do the casual conversation, to be patient with the male mask. All of that takes a lot out of a woman. And if her own bucket isn't filled, she's not going to be able to do all these great ideas we talked about. So let me share this with you. Now, this same letter writer that we started with, 24 hours later, she sent me another email. Okay, so first it was a help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, throw me a lifesaver. Now here she is 24 hours later. Just wanted to let you know what I've been doing the last 24 hours to help myself be in a better position to handle the stress. So you don't worry about me too much, she says. I bought myself flowers and wine yesterday while at the grocery store. Ate some chocolate I've been saving since Christmas.
Oh, yeah, it's about time to eat that.
And got up early so I had some time to watch my favorite show. I've been...
Did she open the wine with the favorite show in the morning? That's the only concern I have.
If she wanted to, God bless her. It's all about delighting. She said, I've been avoiding any news today, just baking, playing cards with my kids, and working on a puzzle with my husband.
Oh, there you go.
I also got outside yesterday and talked with a neighbor in the backyard while the kids played, and I got my husband to come out too, which I think boosted his mood for an hour or two yesterday evening. I also noticed after I had asked the whole family to stay off screens this morning that when my husband came downstairs, he brought a book and read or worked on the puzzle most of the morning rather than playing video games. I know he was doing that for me, and I plan to let him know later how much I appreciate it.
That's where the wine's coming in. Okay, now I'm there.
I don't know if he's responding to something I'm doing or not, but I will try to keep up the more positive tone as long as possible. She said, I surprised myself at how much I was able to dig deep after allowing myself some outlet for my own fears and worries.
Wow.
I am trying to let go of pressures and expectations and find my equilibrium. I saw with my own eyes yesterday what you have been saying. How much calmer my husband was when I wasn't swimming in my own stress. even if I thought I was repressing it. See, she thought I need to express it. But she's taking a little lesson from her husband and finding ways to release it, right? I'm going to take my self-care much more seriously as I can see how fundamental it is. I was clearly not doing enough for the situation I'm living through.
Very interesting statement. Wow. Not doing enough for the situation I'm living through.
So whatever she's done in the past as self-care, she calls it, I call it delighting your heart. Whatever she's doing in the past, she needs to bump it up right now because of the additional stress. She needs extra feel-good stuff, much more of it than she's used to doing.
But that, I mean, what really amazes me is she didn't listen to this podcast. Why did we do this podcast? That's right. But this whole point of through the, what does she say? Clearly not doing enough for the situation I'm living through. It's a proactiveness that I love about that. Of when you're in a tough situation, you have to do more. You have to go at it a little bit differently. And when you see the guy with the bag of Cheetos on the couch, you know, it's easy to say, well, you're not doing enough, right?
Right. But the whole point was not that he wasn't doing enough, it's that she needed to do less.
Right.
She needed to be less
worried
intense, less so focused, so into her emotions. She needed to lighten up. And listen to this.
That's just an awesome response.
These are the kind of things that we talked about in my live lab or Q&A with my students this week, my WifeSavers students. And this student wrote me and said, and we'll end with this. It's a good ending. She said, "Thank you for your wisdom during our live labs yesterday. After I got out of the lab, I immediately texted my husband, who is out, and thanked him specifically for all the projects he's been working on since being suffered and to stay in," she said, "and not permitted to work. Where before I was frustrated with his anxiousness and his bull in the china cabinet approach to starting multiple projects just to keep himself busy.
Just to do something.
After my call with you, I saw it as his way of coping with the stress. He really appreciated my loving words and came home more relaxed and happy. We flirted more, and there were happier feelings between us than there had been in days." She lightened him up. Right? "I made a point to make myself emotionally and physically available to him this morning, and I know he appreciates it. Thank you for reminding me how my man works. I was trying to get him to talk about his emotions, and you reminded me there are better ways. Thanks for being my wife saver today." So, honey, do you love our subscribers as much as I do?
I am so in love with our subscribers.
And do you think we earned 5 stars today?
I'd say we're pushing 6.
Well, I hope they do something about it. And I hope they join my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. It works, right? I understand you.
More and more.
Just go to wifesavers.org/masterclass.
Home is with you wherever that may